Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to our Advent Adult Forum, where we started last week by exploring one of my favorite Christmas carols, It Came Upon the Midnight Clear. While not traditionally at the top of the list of favorites, I love the realism of the lyrics and the acknowledgement that the world isn't the way that it should be, but that God in Christ is working to reconcile all things. And we can catch glimpses of this work if we can only sit ourselves still long enough to hear the angel's song of peace and justice. Today, I'd like to talk to you about another Christmas favorite, O Come All Ye Faithful. This hymn is often used as a processional hymn in modern worship services. The initial lyric of O Come, calling to the faithful to gather together physically or spiritually around the Christ child, makes it a natural fit for that position in worship services. As with many traditional hymns that have been around for a long time, O Come All Ye Faithful has a long history of writers and co-writers, composers and co-composers who have contributed to the development of the hymn. The original text of the hymn has been attributed to various groups and individuals, from 12th century Cistercian monks to Bonaventure in the 13th century, or even to King John IV of Portugal in the 17th century. According to scholars who studied hymns in the 19th century, the text of O Come All Ye Faithful was originally inspired by Luke chapter 2, verse 15. It reads, "Let us go even unto Bethlehem, and see this thing which is come to pass." Other verses draw on the Nicene Creed and John chapter 1, making the hymn a statement of faith as well. This hymn inspires us as singers to picture the infant Jesus in the manger, but the word adore doesn't mean a sense of sugary affection. It comes from the Latin adorare, which often refers to prostration that lifts the eyes upward in wonder. The hymn is a call to prayer. Drop everything you're doing and gather to see the King of Angels. The text is often credited to John Francis Wade, but it's highly unlikely that he was the actual author of the words. He was a copyist of musical manuscripts that he found in libraries. He was known for his beautiful calligraphy in his copies, and often clients requested that he sign his name to his artwork. He published a collection of his manuscript copies with this type of calligraphy artwork in 1751, which was the first time that this hymn was printed. Wade's version included 4 verses in Latin. Later, in the 18th century, a French Catholic priest, Jean-François Etienne Borderies, added 3 more Latin verses. An 8th Latin verse was written anonymously and added to the set. Additional Latin verses from other anonymous or unknown sources have also appeared through the centuries. The text has been translated and retranslated again into English numerous times. First, the original 4 verses, and then the later verses. The hymn has been called various things in English, like "Come hither, ye faithful," "Draw near, ye faithful Christians," and finally, "Exulting triumphant, come from every nation." Try singing that one to the tune. O Come All Ye Faithful is also sometimes called the Portuguese hymn, after an English duke heard a verse of it sung at the Portuguese embassy in London. King John IV of Portugal, who reigned in the mid-17th century, was a composer himself, and 2 manuscripts of the hymn have been found in his collection that predate Wade's version. The tune we typically sing with the words to O Come All Ye Faithful has, like the lyrics, been attributed to many different people: John Francis Wade, John Redding, Handel, Christoph Gluck, King John IV, Marcos Portugal, Thomas Arne, and many others. Similar musical tunes appear in the 18th century, but we can't tell which came first, or if they're even connected to one another, or just sound similar by coincidence. The earliest printed version was written in medieval form in a chant style with square notation. It was intended to be sung in unison without accompaniment, adding to a sense of awe and wonder. When King's College in Cambridge developed a service of 9 lessons and carols in 1918, they included the hymn, placing it in an honored location as the last hymn after the final lesson from the Gospel of John, chapter 1, was read. The arrangement we often use today didn't appear until 1961, published by Sir David Wilcox in a collection of carols for choirs. When we sing this hymn today, we use the 4 original verses and not the verses that were added later. The later verses do appear in some hymnals, but the hymn almost never appears with all verses. Later verses draw out the story of the shepherds and the magi coming to see the infant Jesus, then adding ourselves to the procession. Thus, depending on what verses are chosen, the hymn can be used during Epiphany as well. Let's get a sneak peek of that call to worship the baby of Bethlehem by singing the 4 verses from our ELW hymnal now.